The Titans just got a new creative team, and writer Tate Brombal has big plans in store for them. He's tired of seeing the Titans be underutilized just like we are. Not only that, but he apparently has big plans for Starfire in particular, thinks DC also has big plans for her, in addition to what he already wants to do. And I think there have been a couple hints dropped over the past few months that indicate where she may be headed. But before we even get into that, I just gotta rant for a minute. Because I am so tired of seeing Starfire literally just sitting there. Skip to the timestamp on screen if you don't want to hear the rant. Starfire has spent the past several years in what I can only describe as an ongoing struggle session in DC Comics. People have reached out and asked, why don't you cover more recent Starfire material? The answer, friends, is depressing yet simple.
Because it fucking sucks.
Because it fucking sucks.
But the last time Starfire got any significant attention was during the 2024 crossover event Beast World, where she was a lead character. For those who didn't read it, it was all about Beast Boy turning himself into a Starro to beat this other Star Conqueror called the Necro Star, and got turned into a mindless beast by Dark Raven, which caused him to send spores down to Earth, turning a bunch of citizens and metahumans into mindless beasts. But during Beast World, Starfire was the one who identified Brother Eternity's plot to use the Necro Star in the first place, led the assault on the Necro Star, and co-led the fight against Beast Boy's spores on Earth. Had some solid fight scenes, personally freed Nightwing from a spore while keeping herself from being taken over, and defeated Brother Eternity after getting him to reveal his true identity as Xander, the renegade titan who was lazily shoehorned into Kori's backstory as the real mastermind behind the fall of Tamaran. But as sloppy and as stupid as that last part is in particular, all of this still had Kori front and center the entire time. And it was the last time in recent comic book history that Starfire did anything noteworthy. This event ended in March of 2024, literally 2 years ago. And I have tried to get into this current run of Titans, but I just can't. I'll admit, part of it's the art. After Pete Woods took over as artist, I just couldn't stick with it. No shade to him, but it's just not for me. But regardless of the artist, it's been a flop inside of a snooze fest, inside of a nothing burger, and a constant rotation of uselessness. Ooh, how many old Titans enemies can we bring back during this run? Trigon? Dark Raven again? Terra? Pile them all on! But even when potentially interesting things are happening, they lead to nothing. The entire Titans team joined the Justice League. What came out of it? Nothing. DCKO's been going on. What came out of that for the Titans? Nothing. And what has Starfire been doing for all of this? That's right, nothing. Every issue, she's just fucking sitting there. Oh yeah, sure, she'll have a little side comment here and there about, oh, don't touch that ravenous alien, it's a Tamaranian Cimmerilia or whatever the fuck. But other than that, what does she do?
Nothing!
Oh, but don't worry guys, don't worry. DC's totally been trying to fix that during DCKO. Not that they let her participate in the fucking tournament. But no, she'll totally have something to do here. We'll have her help evacuate Earth. She's gonna lead the evacuation effort, okay? But uh-oh, here's Granny Goodness. Oh no! Starfire's all by herself in space. How is she gonna save the humans? How will she beat Granny Goodness? Well, don't worry, because we won't have to suffer through seeing Starfire actually having to do something. Here comes the Green Lantern Corps, and here comes Blackfire. Yes, Queen Blackfire's here to save her little sister and escort everyone to Tamaran. For literally one panel.
Oh my god!
So all of that hype, all of that so-called build-up from seeing Starfire on the cover of a DCKO tie-in issue all results to her floating around in space, looking surprised, getting caught off guard, and being saved by the only person in this comic who's even more stagnant than Starfire.
Emotional damage!
But alas, there is hope. There is light on the end of the horizon, as if Starfire were doing a supernova in the sky. And that supernova is in the form of Tate Brombal. And he's starting that off with New Titans issue 33. Nightwing and the rest of the Titans are starting their day off in Titan's Tower, and they're having a bunch of banter while enjoying some coffee. But their beautifully mundane morning is interrupted by the Fearsome Five. The fight begins and everyone takes their normal positions, and on the next page, the Fearsome Five have been defeated. Everyone laughs, Roy makes a joke about banana peels, and Nightwing reflects on how much he loves this life with his friends. Next day, same thing. Coffee, jokes, bad guy breaks in. This time it's Terra. And it's basically the same outcome, only this time they forgive Terra after she's been beaten, and talk about how she needs to grow and change. Day ends, Nightwing's happy, same thing. But before he goes to bed, Nightwing starts to hear someone calling him. It's a voice coming from the coffee maker. Next day starts, Terra's on the team now, but Trigon attacks. And the coffee maker is still talking to Nightwing. It's telling him to pay attention to reality, and you all probably can see where this is going. This whole issue is one big spoof of how the Titans have been for the past several years. We're talking decades at this point. People dropping out of the team and coming back, dynamics that change back and forth, Terra flip-flops back to being an enemy, Raven turns into Dark Raven, and Nightwing's had more than enough of this fucking coffee. Later that night, Dick and Kori have a nice tender moment. He comes clean about how trapped he feels, how they face the same villains, the same schemes, and the same betrayals day in and day out. As usual, Starfire just wants to understand him, but all he knows is there's supposed to be more. Leading to the pair sharing a kiss under the moonlight, the suspiciously full moonlight, because the moon never changes. And before he can object, she just tells him to shh, because they've danced to this tune so many times it's their favorite song. The next day, Nightwing decides to not drink the coffee, and stuff starts getting even trippier. Raven and Beast Boy break up, then they get right back together. Roy confesses his love to Donna. Everything starts to meld together as Brother Bloodstroke attacks the Titans. Starfire starts snapping on Dick now, and Nightwing has officially had enough of the all-new super-duper totally different Titans. So he smashes the coffee machine, which causes Donna to have what I can only describe as a chromatic seizure. Roy catches her as she falls, then he has a chromatic seizure. Then the fucking Kool-Aid Man bursts in all, oh yeah! It's the new Titans, John Kent, Yara Flor, Spoiler, and Kid Devil. Okay, one of these things is not like the other. But that's where the issue ends. Now I'm not gonna pass full judgment on this yet. I'll at least wait until the next issue to see how all of this is wrapped up. But so far, I do really like what this issue did. Tate Brombal called out all the messiness and all the stagnation that the Titans have been suffering through for decades now, masterfully. And he did so in a way that lets me know he's a genuine Titans fan. There are some deep cuts here that you really wouldn't get unless you've been reading Titans for years. How many people recall Cyborg's golden design that he had back in the day? And let's be real, in the modern social media era, it really would be so easy for Tate to just talk about being a Titans fan so that he could curry some favor in the Titans fandom. We've been in an age of active fandoms online for 2 decades and some change. But reading this, I think he's the real deal. But this issue isn't just a dig at the messiness of Titans, he's also vindicating the way Starfire's been done in particular. You've probably already noticed how Starfire in this issue is leaning more into her cartoon characterization. She's speaking without contractions, she has pupils. Yes, those things do appear in the comics, but they're really more of a staple of the OG cartoon and Teen Titans Go. She's also talking about beings in a way that doesn't make sense for an alien who's been living on Earth for so many years. And even in the comics, she's never really been that much of a fish out of water when talking about mundane things like beings. That's definitely something that came from the cartoon. And at times that's been reflected in the comics, like her 2015 solo series, but that was more of its own thing. The writers of that series definitely knew that they were leaning more into how she's done in the cartoons, and they intentionally played up that fish out of water feeling because that's what they were going for. But in the normal comics canon, Starfire's nothing like that. So I like how Tate's calling out how all this stuff keeps changing. I even noticed how the color of her gems kept changing from red to green and back and forth, because they used to be red and then they became green. And this is why I say Tate is a man who actually knows his Titans, and I'm willing to trust him. And that trust only goes up when we start looking at some of his statements about Starfire. because he did a Q&A on Reddit, and you know that Stargazers was gonna be in there representing. In response to somebody asking about his plans for Starfire, he said, "I will have Starfire for a few issues, but last I heard, DC has other, bigger plans for her. They are exciting plans, so don't be too sad. She's a character that I adore, and I only want the best for her. This is a case where a character is out of my control." And that right there is a dead giveaway in my opinion for what's about to happen with Starfire. I think you see as well as I do where this is headed. Starfire will only be on the team for a short while before leaving. And she's not only gonna leave the team, she's gonna leave the planet, transitioning into a new character art that will take place either mainly or entirely in outer space, which has been hinted at in some recent issues of Titans and in a variant cover for an upcoming issue. The scene I mentioned about Starfire leading the evacuation into space comes from Titans 29. And while she's in space, Nightwing says that Starfire's been itching to get into space for a while. Then of course we have Blackfire showing back up out of nowhere, Starfire returning to Tamaran. Also, I gotta give props to whoever designed this version of Blackfire's outfit. It's a great modern rendition of her classic armor. Then we've got the variant cover for Titans 35, which has a tearful koriand'r flying away from Nightwing. Now I saw this weeks ago, and I didn't make much of it, because we've gotten a couple Starfire focused covers lately. I brought up one earlier with the DCKO tie-in cover, and there was that pumpkin spice one with Nightwing and Starfire on the cover, and it's always just a tease. But after reading New Titans 33 and reading Tate Brombal's comments, this definitely makes me feel like she is going to leave Earth. And we even have a variant cover of this very issue, Titans 33, that shows Nightwing and Starfire surrounded by a bunch of flying birds and swirling fire. And in the middle of all that is what? Outer space. They're just screaming it at this point. And I, for one, couldn't be happier to have my eardrums busted. Part of the reason why I am so obsessed with seeing Kori go to space right now is because I've been watching a crap ton of Invincible. I love the comics, I love the show. If you haven't watched or read either, get it in your life. But without spoiling anything, I'll just say the narrative has several reasons for constantly going into space. And I just can't help but think of all the great things that Starfire could be doing if she were in space all the time. Like I'm watching these epic fights happen in the middle of space with aliens who don't need oxygen to breathe, or during a moment of political intrigue with the Galactic Empire. I'm just thinking, damn, Starfire would be able to shut this shit down. Tate also made another Starfire focused response when someone brought up the kiss they had in issue 33, and his response basically says, hey, I love him too, but don't expect them to be together, without saying it outright. But he does say, in the end, it's not up to me. Pair that with his other response about DC taking her in a different and bigger direction, and that to me sounds like these two aren't even gonna be on the same planet long enough to start dating again. And if you don't like that, don't blame me, blame the editors and the upper brass. But he did also say he fought hard to get that kissing scene in there. And yeah, you probably didn't need me or him to tell you that. And as someone who is 89 miles past tired of the Dick Kori teasing, I for one appreciated it. I mean, it's right in line with the theme of this issue, and you can't get more tired and rehashed than Dick and Kori's song and dance. What do you think? Do you think Starfire is finally about to get some TLC from DC? Some solo TLC? And tell me what you think about New Titans issue 33 as well. And then click on this video right here to get more alien warrior hippie princess in your life. And until next time, keep simping, Earthlings.